18. The inner work of global leadership. The most overlooked dimension of global leadership is the internal one. Organizations invest heavily in developing communication strategies, cross-cultural training, systems, dashboards, and alignment frameworks. But the emotional architecture of a global organization ultimately rests on something far more personal: the leader's inner stability. Leaders cannot create external coherence if they are internally fragmented. They cannot steady the organization if their own center wavers. They cannot cultivate trust if they do not understand the emotional patterns that drive their own reactions. Put simply, global leadership begins inside the leader long before it is felt in the organization. Leaders often arrive in their roles armed with decades of technical expertise, operational mastery, and strategic clarity. Yet when they begin leading across cultures, they often encounter a surprising truth that the greatest challenges they face are not external. They are internal. They exist in the space between stimulus and response, in the split second where tone forms, in the breath before urgency is expressed, in the pause where silence becomes charged. The work of global leadership is profoundly emotional, and its effectiveness depends on how well leaders understand their own emotional mechanisms. One executive described this as realizing I was the first translator my message passed through. Before her words were interpreted by teams across regions, they were interpreted by herself, shaped by her mood, her assumptions, her stress levels, her beliefs, her insecurities. I was filtering my own message before anyone else even heard it, she said. And the filter wasn't always clean. Her realization is one that marks the beginning of deep inner leadership work. Leaders must become aware of the emotional states that color their communication, not to eliminate emotion, but to bring it into conscious awareness. Unacknowledged emotion becomes unintentional tone. And unintentional tone becomes misalignment. Another executive discovered this during a difficult organizational restructuring. He found himself oscillating between compassion and pressure, a complex emotional reality that made perfect sense internally, but appeared inconsistent externally. When he examined the emotional root of this fluctuation, he realized he had been carrying the weight of responsibility privately, attempting to shield his teams from the emotional truth of the situation. His tone therefore had two layers: the inner weight he could not express, and the outer composure he was trying to maintain. Teams sensed the dissonance instinctively. Only when he began acknowledging his inner experience, calmly, simply, without dramatics, did his tone become coherent. I didn't need to be emotionless, he said. I needed to be aligned with myself. Inner alignment is the foundation of outer alignment. In global organizations, where messages cross borders, languages, and emotional histories, leaders must develop a rare quality: emotional self-literacy. They must understand not only what they feel, but how what they feel transforms into tone. They must recognize when urgency springs from genuine need and when it springs from personal pressure. They must differentiate between silence used for reflection and silence used for avoidance. They must become aware of how their own cultural conditioning shapes their instinctive reactions. A leader raised in a culture where decisiveness signals confidence may naturally speak quickly during uncertainty. But in cultures where decisiveness signals rigidity, this instinctive reaction may unintentionally create distance. Another leader raised in a context that values harmony may soften messages, believing they are creating safety, while inadvertently creating ambiguity for cultures that expect directness. Leaders must therefore see themselves as products of a culture, not exceptions to it. They must learn not only the emotional logic of their teams, but their own emotional logic as well. This inner work also requires leaders to examine their relationship with power. Hierarchy travels differently across cultures. In some environments, leadership presence is emotionally protective. In others, it is intimidating. Leaders who lack awareness of how their authority is felt may unintentionally create emotional turbulence. One leader from a highly egalitarian culture was stunned to discover that his casual style, which he believed signaled approachability, was interpreted in hierarchical cultures as carelessness. Another, accustomed to formal distance, was surprised that her composed demeanor felt unapproachable to cultures that build trust through relational warmth. Leadership, she realized, was not about expressing herself authentically, it was about expressing herself intentionally. Inner work also involves recognizing how personal narratives influence leadership behavior. Many leaders carry unspoken assumptions about what leadership requires, assumptions shaped by their own experiences with authority. A leader who once worked under a volatile manager may overcompensate by avoiding conflict. Another who learned leadership through crisis may default to urgency even when unnecessary. Another, shaped by environments where mistakes were punished, may struggle to create psychological safety for others. These narratives do not remain inside the leader. They travel through their tone, their reactions, their pauses, and the emotional climate they create. One executive, after reflecting on her leadership patterns, said, "I had been leading my teams through the lens of a story that wasn't even mine anymore." This realization freed her to lead with intentionality rather than inheritance. The inner work of leadership also involves developing emotional boundaries, not walls, but clarity. Leaders must learn to separate the organization's anxiety from their own. They must become centers of gravity rather than amplifiers of instability. When teams sense uncertainty, they look to leadership to anchor the emotional climate. But if leaders absorb the anxiety rather than contain it, their tone begins to reflect the organization's fear rather than stabilize it. The discipline lies not in becoming unaffected, but in becoming grounded. A global CEO once described this as learning to stand at the center without being swallowed by the swirl. She didn't eliminate stress. She simply refused to let stress speak on her behalf. Finally, the inner work of leadership requires self-compassion. Leaders in global contexts often hold themselves to impossible standards, to be calm always, clear always, confident always, emotionally present always. But leadership is not about emotional perfection. It is about emotional repair. The most aligned organizations are not those led by flawless leaders, but those led by self-aware ones, leaders who notice when their tone slips, when urgency distorts, when silence carries unintended signals, and who recalibrate with humility and transparency. Global teams do not need leaders who never err. They need leaders who recognize when they have, and realign quickly. This inner work is not supplementary to global leadership, it is the core of it. Every external skill in this book rests on an internal foundation: awareness, coherence, groundedness, narrative clarity, and emotional self-understanding. Without these, global alignment cannot take root. With them, alignment becomes not only possible but sustainable. The next chapter explores how leaders move from inner work to external action, how they begin deliberately shaping the emotional system of the organization, creating the conditions for long-term consistency, trust, and coherent global execution.